Alright guys, let's see. Do a little end of week recap on some of the charts and some of the things we looked at this morning, as well as touch base on a few things that ended up playing out. And then see kind of things we need to look at for heading into next week. So let's see. Check the list of stocks that people are wanting me to check. Zoom out a little bit. We're going to start with Tesla because I know quite a few people have been asking about that. Zoom out to the weekly. Kind of show you what I've been looking for. Alright, so Tesla, right? Like I mentioned on the other videos, and if this is your first one watching, feel free to subscribe or go look in the channel as well and see some of the other videos that are out there. I'm going to make some separate videos talking through how to go about the charting, also how to interpret some of these lines a bit better. I know that Tesla is really busy, but that's because we traded across multiple time frames. So that being said, what I've been watching for on Tesla is I want to see confirmation of a breakout on the weekly followed by the monthly candles of this downtrend line. So yeah, we've got the weekly right now, but I've learned with Tesla over the years to be cautious whenever you've got these breakouts that head into significant events. So whether that's earnings events or Cybertruck releases or the upcoming Robotaxi release, things like that, you want to be really careful because the larger funds seem to play into that heavily with selling of call options, which we can see over in the well flows. We're kind of talking through that in the Discord today. Same thing happened here ahead of earnings. If I jump over to the daily so you can actually see it, it's like you can see on this chart that yeah, it broke out of that downtrend right here heading into earnings, right? And people got super hyped, loaded calls, held calls through earnings, even though you don't hold calls, especially on Tesla or NVDA or anything like that through earnings, because IV crush is insane. And then we hit earnings and it just dropped hard, and of course right back into this trend channel, right? So I've learned to not chase the breakouts on Tesla, wait for the confirmation. If Tesla is going to break out to the upside and have bullish momentum, then you're going to have plenty of time to ride the move, right? So don't feel like you're going to miss out on a trade. I've been trading Tesla non-stop, both directions, as well as holding shares and selling covered calls for the last 3+ years. So, time being, still overall fighting that downtrend. If you look at the monthly, what likely ends up happening here, I'm kind of hoping it doesn't because I'm kind of tired of trading it this way, honestly, but I'm also being realistic because I like to make gains, not donate my money to option sellers, which I sell options, so I'm benefiting from this on the flip side of it. Yeah, Bauer, I got you. I'll check out Apple. You hear me okay and everything? If so, just drop another response right there to your Apple. That'll be good. Let's see, so yeah, I'm watching this monthly candle here, right? So right now it's pushed above just like it did when it wicked there, but I'm trading carefully because for one, we've got earnings approaching. Also, we have Robotaxi event on October 10th. I kind of show the example over in the Discord of like where I've been selling the 10/18 2/30 strike covered calls. I actually switched this week to sell covered calls for the 11/15s? Let's see what I sold them at. Yeah, so selling November strikes now. Same 2/30 strike it looks like at this point is what I sold earlier this week. I still have 2 or 3 more to sell, but I wanted to wait and kind of see how it shakes out. Still need to sell covered calls on NVDA. So Apple and NVIDIA are both interesting, and Bauer, you're gonna be surprised when you check out Apple here in a minute, because here I'll come back to Tesla because Apple is fun. I've been watching for that breakout, right? And I mentioned it on the videos earlier this week that I really wanted to see a breakout of this and then ideally a retest, because with breakouts, when you have gaps like this, the risk is just so high. That gap's going to get filled, and ideally with a breakout, you get your breakout, then you get a retest to your trend, and then you push for a further breakout. We didn't really get that back test here, so I've been trading carefully about going long on Apple here. and I'm glad I did, because the level that I mentioned this morning in the session is this key resistance level right here, and I'm gonna jump over the 4 hour. This key resistance level right here that we rejected at hard back in August, and it's also the same level that we rejected hard off of back in July. Okay, and you'll notice that my measured move target right here, even though it's a pretty tight range, that's why I wanted to see confirmation above that level to scalp or to trade calls into it. Now, we were late in the day when we started to push above that level, so I was not chasing calls there. Our signal started to signify that there was going to be a sell-off, and then also I noticed over in the unusual whale options flows that the whales were selling covered calls heavily into that level, which is what we saw historically over here and over there. Same thing we see on Tesla. When we push right above those resistance levels like that, they sell the calls into the spike premiums, and then on the pullbacks they either buy to close or they ride them. So right here you can see very similar type of rejection off that level. What I'll be looking for here is to see what happens early next week, because yeah, we did have a lot of bullish momentum this week, but it was also heading into the Fed rate decision, which is to be expected once we got the half-point rate cut. Also combined with it was monthly and quarterly options expiration today. That's something I've been warning people to watch very closely, because you can have a lot of weird, wacky movement driven by options. Also, they need to protect and lock in some of those options so that they don't have to cover for them. So I'll be watching next week to see whether or not this bull flag setup that we have here stays intact. If we break down from this support level right here at, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. We'll go 1 hour. If we break down below this support level right here at, I guess, was it 226.82? Sorry, it's squeezing the numbers, but yeah, 226.82. We break down below that again. It's a good put entry for swing puts on Apple yet again, at least to that gap fill and potentially a trend test. Like I always recommend people is when we tag resistance levels for calls or tag support levels for puts, that's a good place to go about trimming your position to cover your cost basis. So definitely keep a close eye on Apple next week. It's trying to do its breakout thing, but that hard rejection like that was just a red flag. So I like this bull flag that we've got on larger time frame here, but these wicks in that zone make me hold off. Same thing as I mentioned with Tesla. When you get a real bullish breakout, you've got plenty of room to ride the movement and swing it safely without the risk of like having a hard rejection like this, getting stuck into a call option that expires in a couple of months or 3 or 4 months out, and then never really recovering without trying to average down repeatedly. That combined with the Fed interest rates, if they keep cutting them, that's going to keep hurting option premiums due to row. So definitely keep that in mind as you're trading swings. I'll look over at QQQ since this is feeding into it. So I've been watching this head and shoulder setup on QQQ, right? And ooh, we closed red. I haven't had time to actually look to see where we closed. So I've been watching this head and shoulder setup. I would like to see the bullish breakout so we can trade it, right? Because SPY went to all-time highs territory, but ultimately a lot of the market movement we've had the past 18 months or so has been driven by NVDA and the tech tickers and all those types of things. So keeping a closer eye on that than just looking at SPY by itself, because just like straight up looking at SPY and saying that the market's going to keep going higher, like you're going to get trapped in some calls that probably don't recover because you'll get a poor entry by buying them and just assuming that things only go up. Because whether you're buying puts or calls, it ultimately comes down to what is your entry and how the strike and the expiration are going to actually move for that given ticker. I'm sorry, how the premium is going to move for that given strike and expiration of that specific option for that given ticker. So prime example, like today, looking real quick and I'll come back to QQQ. Like, yeah, Tesla had this little bit of a red, actually that's the inside bar, it's a bearish pattern on the daily candle there for Tesla. But watching that, everybody chased the bullish momentum there. We actually teed up and I saw the rejection off these levels and the bulls selling their covered calls off. And we entered some puts, some 240 puts yesterday with the rejection. and those offered 75% gains today. So you can't get trapped in the mindset of only trading one direction. Especially right now with a lot of these tech tickers and stuff, the volatility has been so high the last year or so that really a lot of the premiums are just really out of whack, and you can get trapped on both sides if you don't know what you're doing. So a lot of the people over in the Discord have seen I've rotated in several other tickers. I need to do a more detailed video talking about the wash sell rule. I've got the materials put together for that, but what I'm going to start working through with people in the next 2 or 3 months is going to be making sure that we're rotating over to tickers that we haven't traded recently, so that we can make sure that we exit all of our current positions on certain stocks and options that we've traded that maybe people took losses on. Because what you don't want is a wash sell for some of those options to trickle in, and all of a sudden you don't get to actually secure those full losses against your tax burden. So I'll talk about that more in a separate video. For the sake of time, I'm just going to keep jumping through this. QQQ, jumping back to it. So, watching the head and shoulders, I want to see how this plays out next week, because that's not super convincing right now. I would have liked to see a push, and maybe we do next week, a push to fill this gap up at the 493.15 level. But I want to see how this plays out, because QQQ did go back and fill its gap from the gap up yesterday, so that's nice at least. But what I always say related to QQQ and SPY is that you have basically the top weighted tickers within that given index driving the index, not the other way around. Even though people often think QQQ and SPY are driving the markets, they're a result of it. So right now you've got Apple and NVDA, I think, are the top two weighted in QQQ, for instance, and they might be for SPY too, but the top 10 for QQQ is heavily tech weighted, whereas the top 10 for SPY has a bit more of a mix going to it. NVIDIA is the one that people really have to watch and really should be hedging right now, because this can play out as a potential bull flag and potentially could be a little bit of a cup and handle, although I typically won't look at that on a 4-hour time frame. Alternatively, what we could be looking at here on NVIDIA is a lower high. So that's something to be careful of. If we reject here and move lower, especially if we form a lower move, here I'm going to delete that measured move from earlier because it's clouding the chart, making it a little funky. But if we form a lower high here, because that candle did actually open and close below, and it wicked above, then we could be looking at a reversal here. So trying to be careful about NVIDIA here. Again, I haven't sold covered calls on it yet. I wish I kind of would have again whenever we tagged that 120 level, but I held off and I shouldn't have. I know several people have joined the Discord to learn more about hedging long positions with Tesla and NVIDIA specifically, so I need to put together a video talking through what I've been explaining lately related to the Tesla options I've been selecting and similar ones for NVIDIA. But I need to look. I don't know if I need to sell 3 covered calls on NVIDIA or 4, but this would probably be a good range to do that, especially since we've got earnings approaching. When is NVIDIA earnings? Okay. November 14th. All right, we have time. So I'll be keeping an eye on this. We might get some bullish momentum ahead of earnings, but those of you who have been trading with me for a while, I don't make my trading decisions based on the hopes that, well, we've got earnings approaching or we've got the election approaching or whatever. Like, that bad mindset to have, because it works until it doesn't. I'd rather stick with purely the technicals and the data, such as the flows, to see what's happening with the larger funds and movement. And if I notice there's something that stands out and it happens to align with the event, that's great. But I'm not going to make a trading decision based on hope. So what we've got here, overall, NVIDIA, keeping an eye on it. The weekly for NVIDIA looks quite indecisive at this point. I don't know what line that was, but I deleted it. So watching this closely, because that's not giving me a lot of like hype right now. And ultimately, what we've been seeing is a lot of the semiconductors actually are showing a lot of weakness, which makes sense. We likely have some sector rotation happening right now still, or it started a couple of months ago, but we're starting to see it peak a little bit more now. People are shifting over some from these mega caps and specifically from the semiconductors over to some other sectors, which is normal, and there's a chart available in the Discord that you can use to look at that. But didn't mean to move that. I'm watching the Head and Shoulders right now on SMH, which for those of you who don't know, that's the semiconductor ETF. It's the primary one that has things like NVDA and others within it that you want to keep an eye on. It filled its gap as well, and it closed lower here, so watching that to see what happens. I would say a good thing to watch here also is going to be this current uptrend it has going on. If we break down from that, I'm not shorting SMH directly, but this is a good indication if you're seeing this happen on NVIDIA, SMCI, AMD, all the semiconductor chip stocks, which is a list over on my thing in the Discord if you want to look at that, but you can add those to your watch list as well. Curious to see what the impact is from Intel and Broadcom, which we jumped in some Intel calls based off the well flows in the chart set up yesterday that absolutely ripped today whenever that news came out for Intel. So keeping an eye on that. I went ahead and logged gains on mine because I didn't want to risk it with the uncertainty of what can come out of that news announcement. But we took 63% gains, so that was good. Again, watching this, keep a close eye on it for SMH. Let's see, we did Apple, we did Tesla, QQQ. We can look at SPY too. So SPY, this is a positive sign that we got the breakout right, and it's a positive sign that we held above the previous highs. I like that setup there. That's looking good. I am a little hesitant on the fact that we happened to reject and close back below this previous trend line, which could be irrelevant because arguably that trend line might not matter anymore, but it matters if you look at it on the weekly and the monthly, right? So that's where, just because you got the breakout and the confirmation on the weekly, like we broke down from it, right? We retested again here, we rejected, we're retesting again here. While it's not super obvious that that trend is still intact on the daily, it's pretty clear that it's still intact on the weekly, and I bet the monthly, which I haven't looked at, yeah, we're riding right along it. So you can see this is going to be an important month for seeing how this shakes out. I like the setup here for more upside movement depending on how next week plays out. So we'll see where we go from there, if it breaks out and pushes further, or if we actually get a pullback here. So definitely something to keep an eye on. See what other tickers are in the request real quick. IWM, yeah, most definitely. So, like I mentioned on the other video, IWM, a lot of people think small caps, mid caps, but ultimately you've got things like SMCI and other major tickers, which we're going to look at SMCI here in a minute because it had some odd movement today, which I assume was due to options expiration. Big chips, I did NVDA a few minutes ago, dude. If you go scroll back in the live feed after I publish it, you can see it. If I need to cover it a bit more, I can. But it's not looking great as of right now. We'll see what shakes out. But kind of looking here at IWM, notice how we've got the rejection here again in this range. So the flows have been what I've been watching with IWM. We got this breakout here, which is great. I want to see if we can actually maintain that momentum, because a lot of the hype with IWM was coming from the Fed interest rate decision and the assumption that people had that we need to shift over to small and mid caps, but then they don't account for the fact that there's still mega caps and large stocks within IWM. So purely by itself, you don't want to assume that just because interest rate cuts are coming that IWM keeps ripping. I actually like this index quite a bit, but I'm watching here to see if we handle a retest or if we can continue some bullish momentum up. It's a really big red candle, so I want to see how things shake out. If we lose this support right here, that's a red flag, and we'll trade it accordingly. So let me see what other ticker I've got on the list here. Microsoft. The same thing going on here, which again, like I mentioned on the other videos, a head and shoulders pattern is still valid until you form a higher high above the head, right? So this can technically be this, and still be a valid head and shoulder setup. Definitely something we'll watch. You can see that I do have this set up for watching this bull flag breakout here. I wanted to see the break into that range above that level, and then the measured move for that bull flag breakout was going to put us somewhere near those previous all-time highs. So what I want to see here is I'm not entering at the immediate test, right? What I'm looking for is the retest and the confirmation of a breakout on that bull flag, because that's a lot of red candles that we have going on there, right? It actually might be a potential diamond setup. It is. I'll draw it out later and show y'all, but keep an eye on here because we did fill this gap here, so I'll mark it. Keep an eye on Microsoft. That might be a good bullish setup to trade in the coming weeks, but also keep in mind some of the other factors that are influencing Microsoft right now. Jumping over to Google really quick, and I trade this Google, not the other Google, because this one is the one that has voting power. This thing might be retracing to reject again, so if we do end up breaking this trend line here, we draw it from the daily. I like this. I don't love that that closed inside like that, but there was more news this afternoon for Google that it was getting some kind of lawsuit from somebody, which seems to be the case right now with all the antitrust situation. So I'm keeping an eye on that stuff with Google. I'm also watching to see if it can retake that level to potentially trade from 167 to 174. That being said, just like I didn't enter calls right here because I didn't want to get burned, I'm going to wait for confirmation. You get confirmation above on daily repeated candles. There's still plenty of room to trade 167 to 174 and make solid gains without risking buying calls right here that I know quite a few people are still down on. I saw some in one of the Facebook groups that the guys were loading up on. I was like, guys, wait until we see how this plays out. So hopefully those guys still have had a chance to get out again here if they average down. I prefer to wait for confirmations nowadays, so that's just me. I'll be watching that on Google to see how that shapes out. Let's see, SMCI, yeah. Gotcha, Deej. Oh look, SMCI, right? It's like I usually say when I'm going through this one, bear flag breakdown. Bear flag, bearish printed, breakdown. Bear flag breakdown. So like this is a bullish candle on the daily a little bit. It's trying to push up and get the breakout. Just like I mentioned on those others, we want to see confirmation of the breakout, right? So this trend line is what we were watching all day. Kind of mad at myself because I traded SMCI puts that I was up nicely on earlier this morning and then got sidetracked updating one of the other alerts or something, and then the drawback to trading SMCI puts is they're very volatile, so it went from like positive 35% gain to negative very quickly, and then I just got sidetracked and let the thing burn. So story lesson of the day is don't trade SMCI options, calls, or puts if you're not non-stop watching them. Honestly, most people shouldn't touch them. They're too high risk. So watching the setup for the potential inverse head and shoulders breakout here. This stock is risky across the board. I know a lot of people kept on buying the dip repeatedly for the past many months. That's not a good approach with this ticker. As you can see, if you bought any of these dips, you're still down a lot. So wait for confirmation, go into the trade with a plan, and then exit. Like I didn't do this morning. Like learn from me making that mistake and being nonsense. So like I said, most people shouldn't trade this ticker. I know Deej over on the Discord trades it quite a bit, but he's also going into it with the expectation that he's basically gambling on that trade when he does it, so it's okay. There's nothing wrong with the 1 or 2 lotto trades as long as you're practicing good risk tolerance and position sizing. So I'm not going to knock him for that. GameStop, I'm definitely going to show GameStop, dude. Yeah. I was telling the guys on the Discord earlier, I was actually mad at myself because I was watching the setup on GameStop here yesterday because I noticed some really interesting bullish call flows coming through on GameStop yesterday morning and afternoon. And I knew, so like I don't just buy based off the flows, right? I'm looking at the charts to see where my levels of support and resistance are, what patterns we currently have in place, as well as like what is in the flows. So when I saw those things on the flows, I was also looking here and I was like, man, the GME is really trying to hold that key support around that 1970 level. It was tempting to go ahead and enter some long calls. I planned on it. I got sidetracked with some other trades and held off. And then, unfortunately, for me, very fortunate for some other people, which I think I still have some like January GME calls on one of my accounts. I need to go check those and see how they did. But some people had awesome gains today because GameStop just completely and totally ripped off that level. So it's been cool. I've got to look real quick because now I'm curious. So like I'll pull it up on the other screen since I don't have these over there, but I'm going to tell you what the GameStop calls ended up doing today just so you can understand how the flows can actually be a good indication of how to trade something. So if I look over here, it was the $21 calls for today, and it was odd for me to see that big a bullish flow on some calls come in that expired this soon. Holy crap, they went up 1700% today, and that wasn't even from the high. For real? Like, that right there is the kind of lotto trades that I love about the flow. So, yesterday, wow. Yesterday, those $21 calls, what'd they close at? I think I dropped a screenshot earlier. I'm trying to look over here on the thing. So yesterday, those closed at like 30 cents or $30 if you look at the translation, right? So yeah, they closed at, oh wow, no, those closed at 7 cents. Those closed at 7 cents yesterday. They're $7 per contract, and today they hit $113 each. So that's a lot bigger than 1700% gains. But wow, okay. Let's see. Check a couple more charts really quick. And we've got, pull up the list from the Discord so I don't skip anyone. Oh, SoFi, yeah. Alright, so SoFi. I'll look at Palantir as well, Tony. I know that you were asking me about it earlier. So SoFi still, like even with this red candle here, like I'm still watching this inverse head and shoulder setup. We had some awesome gains off the initial move anyway. So I covered my cost basis on the call position I was in at least, right? So still watching this to see how it shakes out. That's actually a good technical setup for it to retest the neckline. I guess our neckline's up here if we're drawing it based off of the wicks. Alternatively, I could drop it here to where it's drawn off candles. Just like I've mentioned in other videos, patterns basically subjective at the end of the day, and you shouldn't make a trade based off some little tiny specific thing anyways. You should look for confirmations of the breakout. But yeah, we had some nice gains on that setup on SoFi. Still long on some calls and shares on SoFi. I probably should sell covered calls to hedge, but we'll see. Sometimes I do for these smaller stocks, sometimes I don't. Anybody can though. It's never a bad idea to hedge accordingly. Let's see, Palantir, which is one of my favorite long stocks for those that are in it. Oh, it's awesome. Okay, so Tony, let me pull up what you had put in the Discord lounge real quick so that I can actually speak with that specifically. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'll kind of glance real quick. So, like, yeah, I'm watching the uptrend, or like Tony's thoughts on it were the overall uptrend, month time frame, weekly, recent bear channel. Yeah, you can call it that. Let's look. All right, so what's going on with Palantir, right? From a technical setup, you've got, this is a bullish megaphone pattern, which is a great bullish setup. It alternatively, megaphone patterns can be bearish if you get the break to the downside, but this one broke to the upside with momentum and volume. So this is a very bullish setup and is great. You can see that's on the weekly. Then on the daily here, which I'm going to delete this now. We did trade puts off that key rejection there, but it's not really relevant at this point. So I'll leave that. No, I'll drop it so y'all can see clearly. So Palantir, yeah, bullish breakout. Another bull flag going on right here. If I jump over the 4 hour, it's even clearer, right? So do this so that y'all can see it's a good learning example. So this is your flagpole, okay? This green line here, and this is your flag. So what we're looking for here is another breakout to the upside and a confirmation of that breakout. So if I jump over to the daily, so we'll draw it in the 4 hour. So measured move of a bear flag or bull flag breakout is going to be the measurement of the pole. And like I usually tell y'all, I'm conservative with this. So like the pole is approximately 23%. So I'm going to say like 21. And then also I'm not drawing that exact percentage. What I look for, especially when I have historical levels to reference like this, is a level of support or resistance that aligns with whatever that target is. So interesting thing on Palantir is that we're venturing into this range where it was in its all-time highs before. So if we say 20 to 23% or whatever is the measured move on this, right? Go price range. So it's from the breakout. So let me change this to green because it's a top side breakout. It's easier to track against. But you can see that if this thing does break out, so while we don't have 23%, a move of 20% would put you around the price target of that $45 high that it was at previously. So this is why I'm still long on my Palantir shares. I'm not selling covered calls on it right now just because this thing may keep on ripping. That volume is insane. Wow, I didn't realize the daily volume was so huge on Palantir today, which I assume some of that is due to options expiration and probably some short covering is what happened, which is great. Let's keep rolling with it. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out next week. That's a very big green candle for Palantir, which usually indicates its momentum, but I want to see the breakout above that resistance level to see what it can do there. I just really like this stock right now. I know that the CEO's been selling some, but that's pretty normal for executives to sell at least a portion. That's standard practice with a lot of companies, especially in tech and software. Most of their compensation, if you will, is actually through shares and warrants and things like that, rather than just their base salary. Whether that's quarterly or annually that they are given those, that's typically how they get paid out. So I'm not real concerned with Palantir. NVDA CEO has sold a ton of shares over the last 3 or 4 months. That's a bit different just because he's not stupid. He's selling the top, and he's not just selling a portion. The dude's been selling nonstop, chunk by chunk by chunk, and he still has huge holdings. He's still the top holder in the company by far. So I'm bullish long term on NVIDIA, but I think that the dude sold knowing that there was going to be some more pullback, so he might as well do it now. One other thing to keep in mind with some of the tickers right now, especially with things being so high up and heading into Q4 in a couple of weeks, is you'll start to see some tax loss harvesting, which I could probably do a video on that by itself, but expect some things on big tech tickers to sell off as people harvest for tax purposes, which on that topic, it's very rare for me to pay capital gains tax, and I'm not saying this is like a ha he he IRS come find me type thing, but there's a wash sell rule with securities such as stocks and options. There's not currently a wash sell rule related to cryptocurrency, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and just pull the typical, I'm not a financial advisor or an accountant, so take this as you will and speak to whoever it is that handles your stuff, but since there's not a wash sell rule with crypto, basically if you're significantly down on a position and you were to sell that position to take a paper loss, quote, is what we call it, you have a loss on paper, and you, in theory, can immediately rebuy that same position back because the purchase itself doesn't count as a wash sell or a buy for wash sell purposes with crypto. So, fun little tax loophole that I know people have looked into actually fixing for a while now. I think Congress has been trying to pass something to make it to where they can make some kind of loophole, which is why you see all the other regulations related to crypto coming in. That being said, still no wash sell rule for crypto. So especially as I've got certain wallets maybe that I happen to be down on those positions, that I will happen to sell at a loss in those positions before repurchasing those positions and offsetting capital gains for securities. So yeah, you get the drift and do your own interpretation and determine what's best for you. But I don't pay capital gains on securities, so I'll offset those. And y'all have seen that I make gains on securities, so I'm not gonna get into it. But yeah, the thing I'm watching for Bitcoin here, all the bullish momentum we've got going on, is retaking of that trend line that I was mentioning the other day on the video, right? So it's pushing. We're trying to retake that right now, which is great. I know I mentioned it the other day. I'll mention it again. I don't know, regardless of how the election turns out, if Harris gets elected, it could have an impact. Don't know. If Trump gets elected, it absolutely is going to have an impact, and crypto is going to rocket because he's such a big proponent of crypto. So just something to keep in mind. Not saying buy it based off the election. I'm long crypto, have been in it since 2017. You'll know how much I hold crypto, at least some of it. I've been a miner, an investor and trader of crypto since 2017. So I love crypto, love blockchain technology. I think that there's a promising future there. I guess from a technical standpoint, if I remove this, which I'm still sad, I trade crypto leverage futures long and short, and I entered Bitcoin 200 multiplied long positions right here, and I sold them for like 70% gains, like somewhere over in here, being a smart trader. Whereas if I would have held that, just to give you perspective, so those were 200x. So let's say if I wrote it up into here, so 200 times like 17, or let's just say 20ish%, right? Do the math. That's like 3,000% gains or something. So, and this is another bull flag breakout potentially here that we're pushing for. So, keeping a close eye on that. Bitcoin and crypto's doing great. If you do see some selling pressure into the end of the year, keep in mind what I said about tax loss harvesting. It's not uncommon to see a big dip followed by a big buy. Definitely going to keep on watching this and trading this. You've got these zones of consolidation followed by breakout, zone of consolidation, breakout, retest of zone, breakout. So it's repeated with Bitcoin. Even though people feel like crypto is super volatile and not consistent, it's actually super consistent. So definitely keep an eye on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and there's quite a few crypto related stocks as well, which I'll glance at those real quick. What I want to see on Bitcoin here is a breakout above this 64k level for more upside movement there, and then if we can pull or push up to that level, we potentially pushed a new high. So we'll see how that plays out. I'll drop the charts over in the Bitcoin and Ethereum specific channels. Ethereum's been taking a bit. Oh, that's the wrong ticker. There we go. Ethereum's been taking a little bit of a hit, and like I tried to warn people about this last year when Ethereum went proof of stake instead of proof of work, but just because it's going proof of stake doesn't mean that it goes to the moon. So be careful as we continue here. I want to see this hold and break out above and then retest this trend line. I think that that'll be solid. I don't know if I've got SHIB marked on this though, but I know at least a couple of y'all are trading SHIB. I've got the immediate zones marked. So, and SHIB has huge breakout potential if it breaks out of that current downtrend. I'll draw the lines and everything later and publish that so that y'all have it. Real quick, I will look at Riot, Mara, and Coin, and then I'm going to call it a night. So, Riot, I'm in some long calls here, and I need to add to the position as we push up because it's going to rip up, I think, soon. So it's actually breaking out of this downtrend right now. It looks like we've got the consolidation going with it, but yeah, I'm looking for a push up on Riot there. Definitely some key levels to watch. Riot and Mara are minor Bitcoin mining companies, so that's something to keep in mind. It's not going to be influenced the same as Coin is. A little bit different on how they make their money and their revenue. So same thing with Mara here. Like I'm Monday, Tuesday, when y'all remind me, I'm going to Yeah, I can look at HIMS or Celsius. I'm not super familiar with those analyzer, but I'll take a look out for you. Now, are you talking about Celsius, the stock, or the crypto? Clarify that for me so I can check it for you. Um, Sorry. This is a solid support, similar to what we looked at on GameStop a few minutes ago. I could see this support holding and then Mar just ripping off that support. So it's definitely an easy trade from this range to the $18 mark. If it pushes above that, the thing can keep on ripping to 21, 26, and you can see how quickly it can get there. Coin though. So there was a nice bullish setup on coin that seems like it has kind of lost a little bit of its mojo at this point. So I'm still, based off the weekly, because I think there's a nice cup and handle still. Yeah, there is. So still watching this in coin. I like the cup and handle there. I would like to see it retake this level, this 177 level. It looks like it tagged it today and rejected. That's serving as a pretty significant resistance. Yeah, no, it was yesterday they got real close to it and rejected. So right now it's in a downtrend on the shorter time frame. We'll see whether or not it rejects again there, or if it holds and breaks out. But these, I did SMCI earlier. Go to the beginning of the video. I definitely had you in mind with that one, dude. So I talked through that in an example. But let's see. So him. Take it off crypto real quick. Yeah, okay. Let's chart it real quick. I won't go super detailed just for the sake of time. I can look at more for you Monday. I know the family's out here waiting, but looks like we've got some support and resistance going on here. This is the weekly, daily. I mean, you got multiple taps, it looks like, there that served as support and resistance previously. And me personally, like, again, I don't know this stock very well to be able to speak to how it's moving specifically, but purely from a technical standpoint, you've got some support levels here. Again, I'm drawing these more conservatively because I just like to be conservative with my support and resistance levels. So, real quick. I could see maybe an inverse head and shoulder setup going on there. Again, don't know the ticker really well. It is trying to hold that support, so that's good. You've got a bit of bull flag, it looks like, going on there too. So same thing as earlier. If it can get that breakout, was that like 20% give or take? So let's draw that real quick. So assume it holds that range. Draw this so it's easier to see. And same thing here. I'm gonna draw this line for the flag higher up. Why is this not playing nice with me? So you potentially have a bull flag breakout there if it can push above. Also inverse head and shoulders, so measured move, would we say about 20%. So if it can break out above there, that, oh look, it's funny how this works, right? So just about 20% give or take to that key resistance level. It's interesting how accurate technicals can be. So yeah, I'll do a deeper dive on that one next week. Let me look at Celsius real quick and then I've got to go. Celsius Holdings. Oh, I've seen that ticker before. Yeah, I wouldn't touch that crap. Like, straight up, dude. Like, no. I see the support here. Like, me personally, that the risk, if this is the stock you're wanting, like, me to look at, if this is the one you're talking about, just see you type and confirm that for me. I personally would not touch this here because that thing is dropping and showing no signs of bouncing right now. So I wouldn't buy puts with the assumption that it keeps dropping because, again, I don't know it very well, but maybe worth watching. I think that there's probably better places that you can make money right now instead of messing with something like this based off just what that chart showing there. But yeah, I'll draw the lines and everything for you. Remind me Monday, and I'll actually go through and map the whole thing. Yeah. All right. Cool. That is one. Yeah, that's not. I don't know. Like, there's certain tickers that I know, especially people will push a lot on retail groups and Wall Street bets and everything else. That just, for me, that one's got too much risk involved with it, so I would steer clear. But if there's any other tickers y'all specifically want me to do them on, go ahead and just mention it, and I'll make a list, and I can come back through it either Monday morning or maybe over the weekend too. But we'll go ahead and wrap up the session for today. Go hang out with the family and stuff. I hope everyone has a blessed and great weekend. Try to relax, and we'll get back to making some gains next week. Later.